Hi everyone and welcome to Green Monk TV. My guest on the show today is SAP's Chief Sustainability Officer, Peter Graf. Peter, Peter, you attended a couple of weeks back the Copenhagen World Business Summit on Climate Change, and we had a little chat about it a while ago, but I think it would be interesting to people watching this to learn a little more about it. First of all, what is the World Business Summit on Climate Change? What was the meeting? Who were the people who were attending, and why were they there?
The meeting is the meeting of the business world. So you have between 700 and 800 CEOs and other business leaders who got together in Copenhagen to create what was called the Call of Copenhagen. That was actually a document handed over to the UN Secretary to actually raise the business voice in the whole climate conversation. And the leaders that were there made a very strong call, I believe, asking for a global and clear regulation around the limitation of greenhouse gas.
So the business leaders who attended, are they people from Fortune 500 businesses, or are they from small mom and pop shops, or what kind of organizations were represented there?
All different types of organizations, and since the event happened in the Nordic region here, specifically, you saw a lot of attendees from the Nordic region. However, there was also a lot of presence from global businesses like Unilever and others. So it was a global mix of executives. I would say about 2/3 from really large organizations, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000. And then a group of smaller organizations as well.
These kind of events are only going to have an impact if the representatives from the organizations are people who have clout within the organization. So, I mean, it's obviously not going to have been the janitor from the organization which attended, but who was it amongst the organizations who did attend?
You had a lot of large organizations, and you had the CEO of those organizations. Some very prominent ones, like the CEO of Maersk Lines, which is the world's largest shipping line, with 90% of goods actually getting on a boat at some point in time. They have a huge contribution and opportunity in terms of greenhouse gas. Other companies like Unilever, were there, Nestle, other companies in the consumer space, utility companies, specifically utilities in the Nordic region, as I said, which are very active in building out offshore wind parks, but also produce other kind of energy plants. You had companies from the telecommunications area on a worldwide basis. You saw a wide variety of organizations.
There might be the feeling abroad, as they say, that these companies were getting together to kind of put a document together to minimize whatever kind of regulation would be imposed on them by government. Is that what happened, or what was the outcome of the meeting?
I must admit, Tom, when I went there, I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, you have to admit, this is a self-selected group of CEOs and business leaders, self-selected in the sense that those people who really wanted to get something done actually went to the conference. However, I found it amazing how clear the Call of Copenhagen became, and specifically, I found it amazing that in all the side conversations in the hallways and the networking sessions, the one question that was so prominent was, are we aggressive enough in asking for a clear and global guidance? The core belief of the companies present was and is that only clear regulation and clear guidance can actually lead to results. Business is at best if the constraints at which innovation needs to happen are clear. And that's what came out of the event, and I was very pleased to actually see a strong call that is, now just yesterday they sent the final report, which is now a public document, but it also was handed over a preliminary version of that report in the closing session to the United Nations. And I also was amazed about, should I say, star power at the event. The people who gave keynotes and presentations were just a list of who is who in the movement, and also in politics. I mean, you had not only the Queen and the Prime Minister of Denmark there, you had Al Gore, Ban Ki-moon, the General Secretary of the United Nations. You had Jose Barroso, who is the president of the European Commission. So you had all these people who encouraged a strong voice coming out of Copenhagen. So by no means was this an event that would limit the impact of regulation. It was actually one that encouraged clear and global regulation.
So obviously for businesses, and I'll put a link in the show notes of this piece to the document, obviously businesses, I mean, if regulation is there, as long as the regulation is, as you say, clear and concise and global, the biggest enemy to business is having multiple regulations in multiple jurisdictions. If there's more of a global regulation, then it's easier to follow. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Specifically because people need to understand what the constraints are in this whole conversation. And what also became apparent, Tom, is another point I'd like to make, which is how that new deal, that global deal, can be cut. Specifically because you have obviously conflicting interests. And what became very apparent is that the way to a resolution of getting to a global deal is actually threefold. Number one, you need to get the large developed countries on board. You need to get the developing countries on board. And for that to happen, you need to work backwards. First, you need to have clear transfer of financial as well as technology innovation and financial means into the developing world so they can actually abate more carbon than they could without that. That gets you the developing countries into the mix. And without the developing countries, the developed countries won't go there either. So it's really a balancing act between financial aid, technology transfer, inclusiveness in the conversation of the developing world. And then obviously the developed world will play along.
Super. And we're coming to a close now, so one final question. What happens to this report now? I mean, it's great that you guys got together and put this document together, and where to from here?
Yeah, as you might know, Tom, there was a successor event in Bonn, in Germany, just a couple of days back, which again used the outcome of Copenhagen and all the how should I say that, the empowerment that the business world gave the regulators, so to continue the conversation, to provide insight, to actually send a clear signal that the business world is ready to play in a carbon constrained world. And as I said, the document, the Call of Copenhagen, was handed over to the United Nations, which is actually part of the whole conversation of the regulation, and who is actually playing a vital role in COP15, in the event that happens in December, when the politicians get together in Copenhagen. So this input is a very important one. I think it's a strong commitment of the business world to be a part of a global and concise regulation.
Superb. Peter, thanks a million for coming on the show.
Thank you, Tom.